Life on earth is nothing but a field for working on oneself, so that one can return from whence one came. To take life as an end in itself is not to understand the work, and it may cause a wrong attitude, which may be the source of many negative emotions and of useless efforts made in negative states. A man may have some knowledge of truth, but unless he values it, unless he feels some delight in it, it cannot affect him. It cannot act on him, for a man unites with truth only through his love, as it were, and in this way his being is changed. Try to meet any outer event, after noticing its nature, with the right inner attitude, that is, with the right state. Whatever we identify with at once has power over us, and the more often we identify with something, the more we are slaves to it. If we imagine that we have already got qualities of being that we are far from possessing, we can never expect to have them. Our imagination will supply the deficiency. A man can receive help only through what he believes. A day in one's life is a small replica of one's life. Our task is to try to imitate higher states of consciousness, as to attract them. Real knowledge implies a knowledge of the part in relation to the whole. That is, real knowledge is relative in this sense. Millions kill each other, suffer incredible misery, and so on, because they cannot help it, and it all leads nowhere, and can lead nowhere. The direction that can lead somewhere is awakening from sleep. The planetary influences are one thing, neither good nor evil. It is man's inner state that translates them into good or evil. War exists because man is based on violence. If he receives influences he does not know how to use and does not understand owing to his defective and underdeveloped apparatus of reception, he cannot deal with them, and so they pass into irritation, anger, or violence. It has been sometimes stated that one of the general aims of this work is to unite the science of the West with the wisdom of the East. There is the outer experience and our inner reaction to it. Which is most real? Which record, in short, forms our personal lives? The outer or the inner reality? Is it true to say that it is the inner world? There are inner states, states within us all, that we must avoid just as one avoids walking into mud in the external visible world. One must not listen to them, must not go with them, must not touch them, or let them touch you. This is inner separation. It is only when you realize life is taking you nowhere that it begins to have meaning. When attention is practically zero, one is in the lowest, most automatic parts of centers. The result is that a person says and does things without any idea of what he is doing. A person can only understand at his level of being. This means that if you meet a man on a higher level of being than your own, you will not understand him. The basis of the will is in the emotional center. A feeling starts a certain kind of thinking. Our intellectual apparatus as it is, divided into positive and negative, can give any result according to whether one side or the other is set into action. It can prove or disprove anything. It is valuation, the emotional center, that is decisive. A child is born awake, on its own scale, into a world of sleeping people, and, by imitating them, learns only to fall asleep in its turn. And among many other things, it imitates negative emotions. Inner taste makes a man realize when he is negative. Then a struggle starts. He wishes to say something and cannot. When this happens, when the work brings him to this point, the work is then working in him. You will remember that there is a very hard saying in the work, namely, that it is always your fault if you are negative. This is difficult to realize. Birth is from fate, not accident, and all fate has to do with oneself and one's possible evolution. Man can develop in two directions and two only, on the side of knowledge and the side of being. A man's ordinary state is that he does not will what he knows. As you know, understanding is defined clearly in this system. Understanding is the arithmetical mean between your knowledge and your being. If you understand something, you can speak of it in different ways. If it is merely knowledge, you will speak of it from memory. Talking is the most mechanical thing in a person. Everything becomes mechanical in time. Remember that. Our life is not action as we imagine, but reaction. And we react to things in the same mechanical way, over and over again. Everything we do consciously remains for us. Everything we do mechanically is lost to us. Eternity and time meet in man, at the point called now. The principle of increasing laws from above downwards, and this, it must be grasped, is in the nature of things, i.e., it is a fundamental law of creation. The work is to transform your relations to life. Now, the idea in the work is that just as we can change our position in the outer world by physical effort, so we can change our position in the inner world by psychological effort. Nowadays, people seem to be coming to think that what a man is does not matter in view of what he knows. They even think that a man with criminal being can be a great thinker, or a great scientist, or a great artist, or a great writer. To change being is to change one's life, but to change one's form of life is not to change one's being. By altering your outside condition, you will not change your life, because your being will continue to attract a certain kind of life. Everyone acts from the sense of good, from what he thinks is good. No one acts from evil, but a man acts from good according to his level of being, that is, from what appears to him as good. You know that many so-called moral defectives have no sense of shame, and this is a very bad sign. And notice here that by being hard and never feeling shame, you arrest the development of your own being. To think only from effects is one thing. It is how mechanical people think. To think from causes is another thing. It belongs to more conscious thinking. To pray when you should work, to expect help when you should make effort, is idle. Goodness is of being, and knowledge is of mind. In the work, the question is not merely what a man knows, but what a man is. The work is not for people who seek to escape from the normal burdens of life. One sign of being is the capacity to bear the unpleasant manifestations of others. Why is this a sign of greater being? The answer is that you cannot do this unless you have seen in yourself what you dislike in others. As regards being identified with life, take a first example like this. If you are paying careful attention to the horses in a race, one of which you have backed, are you identified? The answer is yes and no. Insofar as you are paying attention, you are not identified. Insofar that you are anxious your horse should win, you are identified and cannot pay attention. When you have just criticized someone, go over what you said carefully and apply it to yourself. This neutralizes poison in you. And do not think that because others know more than you do about any particular subject or craft that you can learn, that it is not worthwhile. The point of this work is self-development, development of yourself on every side, and whether other people do anything better than you makes not the slightest difference. You will also understand in quite a practical way why it is said you must not take the name of God in vain. Things belonging to higher and so more conscious parts of centres must not be allowed to mix themselves up with what belongs to lower mechanical parts. This is the real meaning of profanity. Profanity is mixing higher and lower. It destroys the proper order of parts of centres. The Absolute is composed of the finest possible matter. It is the highest energy level. No higher, no finer matter, or no finer, subtler, more penetrative energy is possible.